Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out to join us this morning for our webinar so the Grey Matter webinar in conjunction with Parallels, discussing reinventing the way in which you deliver your applications, driven very much by Parallels and what they're offering in terms of helping you do that. Just before we start, and I hand over to both Angus and Malcolm, just to do a bit of housekeeping, but also just do a quick overview of Grey Matter for those of you that don't necessarily already know about us. In terms of the housekeeping, please feel free to ask questions throughout, but we will be doing a Q&A at the end. This session is being recorded, and we will certainly be happy to share copies of the slide deck following as well. So just a quick run through of who Grey Matter are. As you can see on the screen there, we've been established as a company for over 30 years, and really working with our customers and more specifically an ISV audience, in providing them the best applications and platforms to deliver their solutions to customers. From a Parallels specific perspective, in terms of our partnership, we are a premier partner and have a team of certified deployment engineers within the business to be able to do deployments. And from a licensing perspective as well, we're actually the only Parallels service provider license agreement provider in the UK as well. So in terms of our ingrained relationship with Parallels, it's a really close one. Adding to Parallels, we also have a number of Microsoft certifications, as you can see on screen as well. So we have a number of gold competencies and silver competencies. And adding to that, I've actually got a further one that I've just received confirmation of certification of as well, which is around the data center piece, which leads into very much the deployment of Parallels on those Microsoft platforms. In terms of how we can help you beyond Parallels, obviously I've mentioned that we provide software and licensing. We can provide services in and around the deployment of that, which I'll touch on quick in the next slide, but also we can provide hardware and mobile phone contracts as well, which is a bit of an offshoot as well. So in terms of our services offerings, building on what Grey Matter have done for a number of years in providing licenses and software to customers, we can help in the design and of solutions. So when you're considering migration to cloud, or you're considering deployment of Parallels into your environment for your application delivery, we can help you with the solution design of that, leading into the infrastructure deployment and migrations. Should you wish to deploy on a cloud platform, obviously you may wish to just in the first instance deploy on-premise, but we can certainly help in leveraging the cloud and the scalability and reliability functionalities in around Azure to deploy Parallels onto in the cloud, and also migrate your services across. The next there is hybrid integration. So if you've got, for you or your customers or whoever have compliancy requirements that need you to retain data on premise, for example, we can provide hybrid integration in and around the cloud and your on-premise environment. Recovery services is very much around backup and disaster recovery, so making sure that your environment is readily available even in the event of disaster. And then just moving into how we can support your business, but also those of your customers as well. So we can provide up to 24/7, 365 support on the Parallels environment, and obviously the Microsoft environment associated with that as well. And the last point on there is around user and admin training. So not only can we do the deployment for you, if you want a level of self-sufficiency, we can provide the training in and around that as well. So this was just very much a quick introduction to Grey Matter, our capabilities, but I'm conscious that you're all here to learn about the wonderful things in and around Parallels. So at this point, I'd just like to hand over to Angus to deliver the meat of the content today. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Thanks, Chris. As Chris said, my name's Angus Adigan. I'm a systems engineer at Parallels, and this morning I'd like to talk to you about Parallels RAS. Okay. But first, a little bit about Parallels as an organization. We've been running for around about 12, 13 years now, and we started off with Parallels Desktop, which was the first application that allowed you to run Windows and OS X alongside each other on a Mac in parallel, hence the name Parallels. We then came along with another Mac solution, Parallels App Management for SCCM, which allows you to manage Macs in an SCCM environment, again, using the skills which people have for SCCM to manage Macs without having any great skills transference needs. And then a couple of years ago, we bought a company called 2X, and we have, from them, purchased the product Remote Application Server, and we've made a lot of developments with that in the last 2 years, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about this morning. So we have customers in all sorts of areas of business, and they use various of our app solutions in different ways. But what I'm going to show is that there isn't just one area that we're specialist in. We really do provide a solution that can be used by, excuse me, everybody and anybody. So on to RAS. So RAS is a way that you can deliver your applications and potentially desktops, if you wish, to your customers in a secure and simple and very, very easy to manage way. And that's what we're all about. We're making sure that it's easy for people to access applications anywhere on any device and at any time. And I guess that's really what you want to enable your customers to have. So we want to provide as much flexibility as possible in terms of what clients people use, and also we provide flexibility in terms of the operating systems which we support. One of the things that we found is that lots of people still have legacy applications running on Windows 2003, and these really aren't generally supported by any other virtualization vendor. So what can we do for you? Well, we can make sure that you have very comprehensive security. The whole thing about virtualizing applications means that they can still run in a data center, so you don't have any worries about an application or code or information being lost if an end user device is lost, because all of that data is still sitting in a data center. It's very, very simple and straightforward to deploy. Whether you're deploying in the cloud, on-premise or hybrid, it's all the same. It's very, very straightforward. We try to make sure we give as good a user experience as possible, and as I mentioned earlier, we may try and make sure that we can work with just about any device. And we're cloud ready. The same code which runs on-premise runs in Azure, runs in AWS, and we are already available in there. In both environments, you can run up a very quick POC environment, and also we operate a bring your own license policy so that you can run your production systems in Azure and AWS as well. It's an all-inclusive solution, and by that we mean there is one version, and that one version gives you all the functionality that you need. It's not a matter of you have to go and upgrade or buy add-ons if you want to do anything else. So in our one solution, you have application publishing, virtual desktop publishing. We provide a high availability load balancer so that you don't have to go and buy an extra hardware device to make sure that you can keep your systems running. Peripheral redirections all built into it. And we have automation in many ways. So we support PowerShell so that you can script the delivery. And if you don't want to use PowerShell, then everything is driven by wizards. So again, it's trying to make everything as simple and straightforward as possible for you to manage and run, and for your end users to access applications. In terms of clients, well, we have clients for just about anything you would really like to use. So obvious ones are for Windows and Mac and iOS, but we also have clients for Android, we have clients for Chromebooks, and we have clients for the Raspberry Pi. So you can actually have very low, your customers can have very low cost end user devices, but still get a full, rich environment to work in. And if you look at the different form factors, so it covers everything from tablets to browsers. So in fact, if you have customers who don't want to install anything, then they can still get access to your application so long as they have an HTML5 compliant browser. And most modern browsers on most modern devices are HTML5. So just about anyone can gain access to their applications on any device without adding any other source or any other code onto that machine, which I think a lot of people find very, very attractive. In terms of choice, we try and keep it as wide as possible. So not just in terms of, excuse me, in terms of hypervisors, because as you can see, we support all of the main hypervisors from Microsoft, VMware, and Citrix, but also in terms of operating systems. So if you want to install the application, yes, you can install it in the cloud, you can install it on-prem, and we then will allow you to run your applications on just about anything. And if you're looking at the new hyper-converged devices from the likes of Nutanix and Hewlett-Packard, then all of those are supported as well. So key benefits overall, I'd say, are the automation and ease of use. So you can very simply, through Wizards, build an entire environment. Or if you don't want to use Wizards, then you can script it. And scripting does have advantages because you know that with a script, it will work exactly the same every time. So you can very easily and repetitively build out things if you need to. We try to make sure that we give an excellent user experience so that whatever applications people want to run on whatever devices they can. And we expect them to have exactly the same experience as they do if they're running on a native desktop. We provide load balancing and high availability to make sure that the system is always available. And security. All our connections are done over SSL. And of course, the additional security of the fact that all your applications will remain in your data center rather than being out on devices which can be compromised. So let's talk a little bit about some of the specifics which have been part of version 16 of RAS. We now support integration with Turbo.net. Turbo.net supply containerized applications. They have a repository on the web, and we now have full access to that full repository. So that any of the applications which they have, you can install at no extra cost into your RAS environment. The advantage of a containerized application is that because it's running in its own little bubble operating system, you can have multiple versions of the same application running alongside each other. So if you have applications which, say, require different versions of Java, you can have two of those running in their containers, running next to each other simultaneously with no contention. Our HTML5 interface, which allows you to have clientless access to applications, can now be customized. It's very, very simple and straightforward to do. And in the demonstration, I'll show you a customized interface as well. With our mobile client, we now have the ability to create quick keypads. These allow you to build combinations of keystrokes into a single button so that an iPhone or iPad user can just click on that button and say do Control-Alt-Delete without having to work out any kind of key combinations. We also support the SwiftPoint mouse on iOS. So I don't know if you're aware that generally with iOS you can't just connect a Bluetooth mouse, but we within our own solution have built-in support for a SwiftPoint mouse, and you can also now access applications using a passcode or Touch ID rather than a password as well. Our PowerShell API has been extended so that we really do support it end to end, so you can do a complete deployment of RAS used in PowerShell. On the security side, we've improved what we can do to protect the end user devices. So things like being able to remote lock a device, we can disable the clipboard, we can disable USB ports, so that you can have control over what an end user has access to and what they can, and keep all of your information secure. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little demo of RAS. So hopefully you can now see my screen. Leanne, could you confirm that you can see the RAS screen now, please? Leanne, Chris, could you confirm you can see the RAS screen?
Sorry, Angus. Yes, we can. I did. I had mute on my headset and I had mute on the craziness going on. But yeah, we can certainly see it.
Great. Thanks very much. Right. So this is the designer view. This allows you to see the layout of your environment. What I have here is what we call an all-in-one. So I have installed all the elements that I want to show within a single virtual machine, which is really just something we would use for a proof of concept or an evaluation rather than a production system. But here you can see we have the main elements. So every implementation is called a farm, and within a farm you can have multiple sites. Two features which every site has to have is a secure client gateway and a publishing agent. So the secure client gateway acts as the point where people will connect into the environment and be validated to see that they are genuine users. The publishing agent acts as a broker and will distribute the connections to the relevant terminal servers or virtual desktop hosts or remote PCs, so that those the user can gain access to the applications that are required by them. As well as the secure client gateway and publishing agent, you could have any combination of terminal servers, virtual desktop hosts, and remote PCs. Terminal servers being servers running Windows 2003 up to 2016. Virtual desktop hosts being environments in which you're going to run full VDI desktops. And by that I mean desktops which are running a desktop operating system, which can be anything from Windows XP Service Pack 3 up to Windows 10. You can also provide shared desktops from the terminal server, and a Windows Server 2016 desktop will look like a Windows 10 desktop. A 2012 desktop will look like a Windows 8, etc. And you can also support connections to remote PCs. So if you have some big workstations which you want to gain access to outside of the office environment, then we can put an agent on those and make them available as well. Here I only have an active session host, which is running Windows 2012 because it's my local host here. We can go and see that we have agents, and we can have all of our settings either defaulted, or we can make them change according to the requirements of an individual server. If I drop down to load balancing, so the publishing agents have a choice of load balancing. We can do resource-based, where we actually look at what's going on the device. So we look at how many user sessions there are, we look at the memory, we look at the CPU to decide which terminal server to connect an end customer to. Or we can just do simple round robin. But in most cases, we find that we get better performance overall by using resource-based. If I jump back to the farm again, we have our remote gateways, which is there as a place where people will connect. And one of the functions there is the HTML5 gateway. So This is the URL which a user can use to connect in using a browser to gain access to their applications. In fact, if I just start up a browser now, just to show you, go to the gateway. This is because I've got a self-signed cert. And just sign that in, and I've just got Acrobat Reader there. But that's how simple it is for a user to gain access without having any clients whatsoever. Now, this HTML5 gateway also checks to see if you have the Parallels client installed, and will offer to download that and install it for you. Let's go back in here again. I mentioned earlier that you can create different themes. And again, if I just use the wizard here, you can see that you can change the colors around the HTML5 interface. You can add in logos. You can add in messages of the day, a pre-logon and post-logon messages, etc. But if I now just go back to the browser, here's one that I prepared earlier. And you can see that I just changed colors a little bit, added in a different logo so that we can see how it looks if it's at grey matter. And that took literally 5 minutes to do. Now let's have a look at publishing an application. So we try and make everything as simple and straightforward as possible. So if I hit the add to start the wizard, here we can see a list of different types of things that we can publish. So we can publish standard applications, containerized applications, desktops, so that's both terminal server desktops and full VDI desktops. We can publish documents, web applications, folders. So if we just publish an application now, and we'll do a terminal server application, because if you remember on my design view, we just had the terminal server in the top right. Next, and we'll look at installed applications. With the installed applications, we're scanning the server to see which applications are there and then presenting them as a list. So if we go into our accessories, and we can do calculator and paint and WordPad, and next, finish and apply. And that's how easy it is to publish applications. If I drop back to my browser now and I'll do a refresh, see all those applications now available. And if I just double click on calculator, just to show, great. Disconnect. I love live demonstrations. My machine's running very slowly at the moment. Let me just kill that. And I'm going to bring up the Parallels client instead. As you can see, different interface. We can't customize the Parallels client as yet, but that's something that we're looking at for a future release. It's taking somewhat longer than usual. I'm going to kill these. Right, let's see. The calculator has now come up. I'll get rid of the dead ones. Somehow I seem to have lost my password. Okay. If we drop down to administration, one of the nice things that we had is the ability to send invitations to prospective customers to allow them to download the Parallels client, and it will also configure it. So you can select, you can add a list of recipients here by email address, or if it's connected to Active Directory, then you can pull in usernames that way. And then we have a drop-down list here of different target devices. So here we have Windows, Mac, HTML5, iOS, Android, Chrome, and Linux. And we can send an invitation out which looks like this. So here you can see that there are various clients, so Windows, Apple, Linux, etc. And these are hot links. You can see the little finger. So if you click on the link, it will actually go to the place where it can download the relevant client. And then once that client has been downloaded, you simply need to click here, and we will automatically configure the client to connect into the secure gateway. I didn't mention earlier we have universal printing and universal scanning. The universal printer, print driver, and scanners are automatically installed into the terminal servers, and they allow any client which is connected into them to print to any printer which is connected to that client. Now, if you find that you have a printer or a scanner that doesn't work, then please do let us know, because we do pride ourselves on really being able to work with absolutely anything there. If I have a look at our client manager, we can do lots of work around particularly Windows clients. So we can power on, power off, stop, start Windows clients, but we also have the ability to shadow them, so that should a user have issues, then we can remotely connect onto that user's device and have a look at what's going on there locally. Also, if we go back to the farm and look at an MultiSession Host, we can see what's running on that host. We have the ability to also have a look and see what sessions are on there, and then on those individual sessions we can have a look at the processes, and then we can also remotely kill processes if we need to. We can send messages directly to individual users as well as being able to do the obvious things such as log off or disconnect a session. We can set up policies about how people connect in and what happens when they do. And these policy criteria can be based upon a number of factors. We can base criteria on the gateway that someone connects to, so that if you have people connecting in locally and people connecting in remotely, we can set different policies according to which way someone's connected in, so that a user could, for example, if they're working inside on the local network and come through one gateway, they could have the ability to copy and paste from the clipboard. Whereas if they connect from an external gateway, then we could prevent that from happening. We have a number of standard reports built into the system. There's 14, in fact. My system's not going to show very much because it is just a demonstration system, so there isn't huge amounts of activity on there to show. But we use Windows reporting system, so yeah, not a lot going on here, or not so lots of different users connecting. But this is all built into the system, comes as standard, and as with everything else, there's no extra cost involved. Okay, so that really just about covers what I wanted to show you this morning. So what I think I'll do now is, if I hand back.
Point. Does anybody have any questions at all for Angus? I've been monitoring the chat and the questions throughout, and I couldn't see anything in there. But does anybody? Please feel free to ask away if you've got any questions. I think you've. Oh, there's a question there from Steve. Adding printers, can this be done by the client?
So as I say, we just, yes they can, because the printers are, it's all about printers which are connected to the client device. Those are the ones we print to. So the printers don't need to be added centrally. It should be any printer that you connect to your client device, we will be able to print to. Essentially, we're spooling down to your client, and then it's going off to its local printer. So we don't need to control the printers. The printer piece within the console is actually really for exceptions rather than for standard printing. So it's if there are some very special printers that we might need to add drivers in there, which would then go be added into the terminal server. That's where the printer part within the console comes up.
But I suppose, as you said before, you're happy if there are random printers that you guys have never heard of before. Just ask away, and you guys can work on getting them added, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, does anybody else have any other questions?
There was another one from Steve, and yes, okay. Your customers, when they're printing from your hosted applications, will see their local printers. That's correct.
Okay, great. Any other questions at this point? I can't see any others in there at the moment, but do feel free to ask away. There's another one in there. Touch ID was mentioned. Can Angus explain how that integrates with our application, please? That's again from Steve.
If your customer's using a Touch ID device, then it's part of the work that our agent will do on that device will allow them to substitute their Touch ID, or it will link their Touch ID to their password. So it allows them to sign on to the RAS application. So our agent does the work, does the integration work.
Okay, great. There we go. Another one. Steve, can you explain how I would set up that up as a demo for my customer?
Well, actually, I mean, as it happens, Steve, because I just saw, or just before the seminar started, I saw an email from you, so I'm going to be giving you a call shortly. So can we go through that then? But essentially, it's down to the agent on their client or your client. So if you have an iPhone, an iPad, an Android phone that supports Touch ID, when you start up the application, it will see the fact that you have a Touch ID available and offer you the chance to configure it, but it varies from device to device exactly how that works. But it's largely dependent on the device and our agent on the device as to exactly how that will work. But we can have a talk about that.
Okay, great. So I cannot see any other questions at this moment in time. I'll give it another 30 seconds. Oh, no, hang on, there's something that's popped in. Have you got a demo system for Parallels RAS which we could access through the web to demo using Office apps on Mac?
So no, I don't have a system that you can access, but if you have an Azure subscription, then you can build out all-in-one environment very quickly and simply. If you just have a look for Parallels Remote Application Server in the marketplace, we don't charge you anything for doing that, but obviously you'll have to pay for your Azure resources. Alternatively, if you want to do a local evaluation, then you can download, it's just a single MSI from our website. You'll need a machine with at least 2 cores and 4 gig of RAM, and you can run it up in no time. I mean, I run off, sorry?
I'm sorry, in response to that, actually, Joel's just asked, how about on Google Cloud Platform?
I'm afraid we're not on Google Cloud. We're on Azure and AWS. Sorry about that. Not yet. I'm sure we will be soon.
So, any additional questions at all? Doesn't appear as though there's any further questions at this moment in time. I will talk very slowly just in case one pops in, but it doesn't appear so. So I suppose at this point, it would be good to wrap up this morning's webinar. I'd like to thank everybody for their time in attendance this morning. If you've got, as you can see on screen, if you've got any questions, do feel free to contact us to ask any that you might have in follow-up. Again, thank you for your time this morning. It's very much appreciated, and I hope it was of value to yourselves. In follow-up, as I said at the beginning, we'll be providing you with a copy of the recording and also the slide decks as well. But do feel free to reach out if there's anything further you'd like to discuss. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers. Bye.